Thank you to all of you for being here. Thanks to the audience for C-SPAN. I've got my phone here to keep track of time, so if it goes off, I'm not trying to be, not trying to be a baller. I'm just trying to keep track of the time. So today we're talking about redefining the image, which, is comforting to me because I think oftentimes when we start to examine politics, in particular, public policy, what's going on in the world, sometimes those of us who lean towards the political left fail to understand the importance of image. This is a problem which costs us a great deal, both in terms of money, our cultural situation, and our political situation. I don't know how important it was decades past, before my time and before your time. But what people consistently underestimate today is how the nature of mass media has transformed society. 10 people control 90% of everything you see, read, and hear in this country. 10 people. And they want to tell you that Cuba has state-run media. 10 people. Who are those 10 people? Well, you can look them up. They're not hard to find. That, in and of itself, is problematic. When you consider that these 10 people all need permission from the U.S. government in order to have licenses, in order to buy other corporations, in order to do all the nefarious things they like to do, then you really understand what state-run media is. If Martin Luther King were alive today and he were in his 20s, nobody would know who he was because he would never get on TV. That's the difference between 2003 and 1953 or 1963. We live in a completely different era where information is more tightly controlled than it has ever been in the history of this country. What that really means is somebody can tell you black is white and night is day, and you will believe it. And not only that, the bigger the lie, the more likely you are to believe it. They told you for how many months that the attacks on New York and the Pentagon were the responsibility of Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda. They told you that over and over and over and over again. And you know what? You believed it. Until they wanted to invade Iraq. Then they told you it was Saddam who did it. They just told you a completely different thing. And you know what? Nobody said anything. Everyone, well, okay, sure. Now, you guys are smart, so I know some of y'all had to be asking questions. Some of y'all had to go, oh, this ain't sitting right. But the vast majority of Americans believed it. How many of y'all are old enough to remember, well, I guess none of you are old enough to remember Iran-Contra. I'm barely old enough to remember Iran-Contra. But I won't get into that. There is such a limited amount of truth available for you to acquire, to digest, and to apply. This is not an accident, and it's not just a conspiracy against black people. This is the world in which you live today. As leaders, the most important thing that you have to remember is that the nature of power changes. These people who run the world, they may not be good people. In fact, they're really, really bad people. But they're not stupid people. Rarely do they make the same mistakes twice. Meaning, whatever worked before whatever strategies, whatever tactics, whatever plans were really successful 30, 40 years ago, they're not going to work anymore. They've learned those lessons. We're coming up on the anniversary of the March on Washington. One of the most memorable moments in American history, something that has ingrained itself in all of American culture, because we can look, we can remember, all of us seeing the footage of all those people, Martin Luther King, the speech, the singing, all that stuff. It was a big deal. Then we had the Million Man March, 1995. We've seen that. That was the response. It wasn't that big a deal. It was a big deal for like a week. Y'all are probably too young to remember that, but, we all went, we felt good. It was like a moment. But there was something that felt a little old. And then there was a Million Mom March and a Million Black Women. There's been like 500,000 people marching since then. To the point that when we're on the verge of the Iraq War, after the Iraq War started, some 400,000 people march in New York City. And they don't even get on the news. This is what I mean when I say that the nature of power has changed. The Civil Rights Movement, what was so amazing